Supreme Court judgment that was delivered on the 11th of August, raising very interesting allegations there. Allegations that the Honorable Member of Parliament has said he's ready to prove to the Judicial Service Commission should he be given a chance. But for now, what he has done, he has presented his petition with the grounds as to why he believes the tenability of the Chief Justice has been brought into question. Let me allow my guest now in studio to comment on this very surprising revelation. This was not the topic that we were to discuss in studio today, but nevertheless, in line with the live environment that we live in, we are now called upon to talk a little bit about it. I'm joined in studio by Honorable Mivika Linturi, Meru Senator. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Next to him is the Honorable Peter Kalum, Member of Parliament, Homa Bay Town. Welcome to the program as well. Gabriel Muduma, political analyst. Welcome to the program as well.
Thank you, Higa.
And Steve Ogola, I call him a city-based lawyer. He tells me it's city lawyer. So I'll respect his wishes. Welcome to the program as well. Thank you so much for finding time. I'll start with you, Senator Linturi. Is this a Jubilee approved motion petition? Is this something that you are aware of? Has it been discussed? Does it have the approval of the President?
First, I think let me start by saying that I think this is a very unfortunate move by the member for Nyeri Town, and I would want to disassociate myself completely with his petition. I'm a member of Jubilee, and I want to believe that whatever he's doing it on his own motion. It's no relationship with the party. We had a PNG meeting just the other day. Nothing of this kind came up, and I also do not think that he has any blessings from the President. And however serious or issues that he may have,
which is actually my next question, do you think his petition, from the little you've heard, has any merit?
I'm saying, however serious issues that he may have and that he would want to prove, I think he should be guided by a few facts. One, being a politician is politically incorrect to bring such a petition as at this time.
Okay.
Because, politics is about perception, and anybody in this country listening to it will not even want to look at the merit. It's on a witch hunt mission, wants to intimidate the Supreme Court, and for that matter, I don't find this right. Two, if I've heard him correctly, is only after Maraga. The decision or the verdict given by court was done by a bench. It's not Maraga. It's not an individual. It's a decision of the Supreme Court. And for that matter,
I've had a chance to scrutinize it. What he's saying is that the Chief Justice used his influence as the Chief Justice, the person who would be looked upon to provide direction, and thus he feels that the Chief Justice would have greater influence on the other judges. That's part of his reasoning. The Supreme Court decision,
in my view, and I think this is that of the position, is that the President, the Chief Justice sits as the President of the Court, is the chair of that panel. And if even if he's a layman, if you and the Chief Justice, when he was reading his brief ruling, every judge and to make his dissenting view, whoever handed. So whatever Maraga went by was a majority ruling where at least 4 of them concurred with the decision that we are going to make. So it is wrong for him to just target Maraga or trying to insinuate Maraga and that influence. Okay. And this is very important for me to say.
Briefly.
Whichever the case is, the judges have security of tenure. 2, the judges cannot be faulted for making a judgment of any matter in a particular way. And for that matter, in my view, it is completely wrong. It is not proper, and I don't agree with it.
You don't agree with it.
I don't agree with it. I don't want Kenyans not to take the opinion of Wambugu as the opinion of Jubilee or opinion that is as blessing from the President.
So you'd never heard about this. You had no idea.
I cannot even support such a decision.
Why do you think he is in Nairobi and yet the President is visiting his backyard, Nyeri Town? Does that make sense to you? Wouldn't some say that the fact that the President is in Nyeri and he is in Nairobi means maybe the President knew about it?
No. Look, it's now 9 a.m. in the morning. Nyeri is only a kilometer, it's around 1.5 hours away and drive. You may even opt to fly. the president probably will be there in the afternoon. So let me not speculate why he's here, because he's done it quite early. I hope he will be there in the afternoon.
Okay.
And I am sure, if the president cannot tell him stay in Nairobi, go to file such and such a petition, I don't think the president can do that. It's not possible.
You agree?
Waiga, there is a South African author who did a book called Cry the Beloved Country. Cry the Beloved Country. I think we are debating as our country is sliding so fast back to where we came from. Or when the Supreme Court rendered its decision, Jubilee Party, through its party leader, said they would revisit and they would fix the Supreme Court. And the president singled out the Chief Justice. They moved from that State House, conference, and there was a rally at Bama that very afternoon.
That's correct.
And you remember what both the president and the deputy, who are the party leader and deputy party leader of Jubilee, said in open air. Actually, they again singled out Maraga, but in terms of all judges of the Supreme Court, they were now called Wakora. I can tell you as a lawyer, not looking at politics, that statement alone, if we were a serious democracy and a serious country, the president and the deputy would be in jail for contempt of court. Because anything you say or do that undermines the authority of the court as an arbiter in our disputes is punishable by way of contempt. And I think Wakili will confirm this. If you see what is now happening, and Maura, let me thank you. You are asking why the MP for Nyeri Town is here when the president is to be in his constituency. Let me tell you.
How do you read into that?
Even as opposition MPs, and this I can confirm, in the 11th Parliament, remember when President Uhuru seized the reins of power, people had ideas about how we should relate with them. Remember, Prime Minister Raila Odinga called us and told us, whenever the president is within the territory that you serve the people of, you must be there. If he's initiating a project, be there to tell him about the next one to also do.
Okay.
Now, you are not seeing a petition going to JEAC just from an ordinary Jubilee member. This is a member of parliament. What I want to say is that the fixing of Maraga and the Supreme Court judges, the fixing of the judiciary, dealing with them in the manner they have been threatening, has just begun. What I would say as a lawyer is that if they imagine this is the way they'll be dealing with the Supreme Court judges, and you remember they were also threatening how they'll be dealing with Raila Odinga when he becomes president. There's impunity going through down. So for you, if this is the way they imagine, he's fully aware this is their thing. And but let me tell you, Waiga,
from where you stand,
I knew, and you saw me laughing when this thing was being showed. I knew it would be coming today by 2 days ago, and there are more coming.
You knew, and Senator Lituri from the Jubilee Party had no idea. No, it's too level-headed to be looped into this, dirty things. But I can tell you, that is not important for me, Waiga. Okay.
What is important for me is that if this is the way Jubilee imagines they want to deal with independent institutions, then they are going to do very badly. Two things. The decisional independence of judges as individuals can never be undermined by any of the judges sitting there. Let me tell you, when the Chief Justice sits as a judge of the Supreme Court together with judges, by the way, he has his own decision to make, he has his own vote, he has no power over the others. So you cannot single, the CJ out and say this and that. But I can tell you, the venom you see, coming through, you see even civil society is mentioned in this thing. And I can tell you, you remember the reason as to why we ultimately went to court. The raids on AFRICOG, the raids on Kenya Human Rights Commission, the purported registrations of civil society organizations around, this is where the country is sliding back to. Okay. What I personally would say is that I'm happy this is happening, and I'm happy it is happening when, as the legal team in NASA who believe in where the country should be going, and this is happening when we have an election to deal with this regime taking us to where we want in a short while.
I can see Gabriel really trying to scrutinize that now. Maybe you can give us brief insight.
And honestly, we've just received it now. I think these copies were just brought a while ago.
Exactly.
And actually, I can give Mheshimiwa to be looking at these that have already gone. But let's begin by the fact, by saying that, Honorable Ngujiri, has a right, like any other, person who would go to the Supreme Court. In fact,
so he has a constitutional right.
Articles 168, if I'm not wrong, gives him that particular right to go and have the JSC look at the conduct of the Chief Justice. One thing I'll agree with Mheshimiwa Kaluma is the fact that yes, there are some people who've castigated the judiciary. You heard yesterday the president in Nakuru. When he was meeting with the Kisii leaders,
yes,
he said the very same thing. My problem is not with the judiciary. My problem is, with that particular decision that one person made. You see, and we can actually try
one person?
No. With that particular, hang on a minute. The president said he has a problem with the decision that came from the Supreme Court. He has a problem with that decision, and that's why he was explaining to himself. He was explaining himself as to why he was angry. And one thing we should not delve into is give it or camouflage it like this is a Jubilee project, or in fact when some people say they are boycotting Parliament like we saw, and others go. All right, we had that, we had people in NASA who didn't go to Parliament, but other people in NASA went to Parliament. Sometimes you can make that decision, and it's allowed constitutionally. So we have to wait and see.
Okay.
What the JSC will come to. But I mean, reading this document and the fact that we are talking about people who have been castigating the Supreme Court, Honorable, I think we also need to be alive to the fact that these independent institutions must be questioned. We were just talking earlier on. It's not the first time the Chief Justice has been put on a hot seat. The Law Society of Kenya actually pointed in 2016. They were pointing fingers at him for being corrupt. You remember the case about the late Inamoi MP who was murdered, and the lady who happened to be, a Kisii.
Chief Justice Maraga.
Of course.
I think
no. It is written, and I'm saying he was. I'm just saying.
So
people have been castigated. Yes, exactly. Even individuals, they are not. We should not. Even the president himself, he's no longer above the law in our constitution, and so no institution should be left without the checks and balances. That's what everybody is calling
about. To what limit can you question independent institutions?
But the other thing probably which we also should agree upon is that, like Honorable Kaluma is saying, it is wrong to pigeonhole an individual, because Mr. Honorable said it very well and actually eloquently put it. The verdict that we saw came out of several individuals. So it is wrong actually to pigeonhole the Chief Justice as the person who, even though you're saying he had the wheel and he can twist people, but I still believe it is wrong to pigeonhole him. So let us take Ngunjiri as an individual who has a constitutional right, just like anybody else, to go and petition the JSC to look at the conduct of Justice Maraga. I mean, it is his constitutional right. As much as we don't.
Let me bring Steve Ogola into this. While we're watching that clip, you actually commented that this petition might not have much merit. What was the grounds for that?
Well, I think this petition is dead on arrival.
Oh, it's not even not have much merit. It's dead on arrival.
This petition is dead on arrival because it's built on a political conspiracy. You've seen this, the influence maps.
You're referring to a diagram showing the bodies that were revolving around the judiciary and the decision that they finally came to the Supreme Court.
It's a political conspiracy. It is also an immature political maneuver that should not come from a seasoned politician or a politician that belongs to a dominant political function like Jubilee. But most importantly, it now signals in a very significant way a deliberate attempt to undermine the independence of the judiciary. But I want to assure the Kenyans and the whole country, the reason why the Constitution is celebrated as being progressive and transformative, one of the key greatest innovations within the Constitution was to assure the independence of the judiciary, so that we can transition from a weak judiciary that was susceptible to executive manipulation, the one that could be easily be considered as an extension of the executive wing of government, to one that is more robust, independent, and functional. And remember, Hega, in the order and practice of governance, the role of the judiciary to interpret the Constitution and the law definitively is an exclusive function to the judiciary, and it's not open to anyone who begin to debate in a manner that seeks to undermine
devalue or delegitimize a decision that has been made by the Supreme Court. And in any case, Article 168 requires, in terms of the legal process, other than being an immature political move, in terms of the legal process, why I'm saying that this petition will not see the light of day, you can't petition the Chief Justice directly through the President. You must do so through the JSC.
Yes. And the JSC must consider that petition on its own merit. If you are giving the JSC, the Judicial Service Commission, a diagram like the one you have, I wish we had the graphics. The one I have here, that, yes. The JSC is duty-bound to interrogate that petition, and if it has merit, then recommend. There are things in terms of practical and legal steps that the JSC is not allowed to do, because the context in which this petition has been brought, we are in a period of fresh election. The moment the JSC recommends the President that a tribunal be formed, the President must do so within 14 days. I don't think the JSC, if having received this, will make that decision. See, what the Constitution requires that they consider, but they are not duty-bound to make a determination within these 60 days. They can take 3 months or even 4 months before they can reach a determination that this petition is meritorious. But what is desirable now, if the JSC is intended to perform its function, which is also safeguarding the judiciary from attack. Remember, the courts and the judges, they don't have the luxury of holding press conferences the way Honorable Mug is doing, castigating political actors for disrespecting the Constitution. There is a limited role within the framework of the Constitution and on the bench. So, what the JSC must do is to consider this petition, dismiss it for lacking merit, for being frivolous, for being scandalous, and then now that marks the end of the matter. That is the kind of safeguard we have in the Constitution. If they were to find it to have merit, they have to reserve that reason until and after the election. The JSC is not allowed also to precipitate unnecessary public agitation where you have an election going on and the Chief Justice being interrogated.
Correct.
Even if that petition had merit, Steve, they are not allowed to.
Thank you so much. Bring a lot of clarity into this matter, I must say. A very developing environment in terms of the news that we are receiving. Surely we'll be showing you some of the steps in which one can take to remove a Chief Justice. I will be bringing that to you in just a bit. But let me try, for the benefit of our viewers who may have just joined us, to touch briefly on what are some of the points that Honorable Gonjiri Wambugu has raised in his petition against the Chief Justice David Maraga. He says that the Chief Justice has invited, encouraged and permitted entry into the core of the judiciary by NGOs. I'm just reading in summary. He also states that the Chief Justice deliberately created an obtuse accountability framework within the judiciary. He goes further to say that the Chief Justice influenced through intimidation, persuasion and undue influence the judges of the Supreme Court of Kenya. I bring that up because, Senator Linturi, that is something that we have started discussing with you. He says that the Chief Justice, I guess by virtue of being quote-unquote the president of the court, was able to, through some way, influence, either through intimidation, I don't know whether he means threats, persuasion, whether there are promises, you know, and other manners, to make sure that the judges delivered in a certain way. In light of what you've said, you've disowned that petition. Do we expect to see Jubilee members of Parliament moving to call a press conference to disown Honorable Wambugu's statements? And if they don't, should we take it then that they endorse? You've refuted that you have any part to do this, but you speak now as a lone voice. Do we expect to see a more collective effort by your party?
I don't know whether there will be a press conference or not, but I can tell you that immediately I leave this station, I'll be talking to some of our members to really to understand the background and or how this matter came or found itself to the courts, so that I understand whether really there were few people that were in support or behind this kind of thing. But I will be very firm because my mind is clear. I think Wambugu has misinterpreted and has not understood the difference between accountability and independence. When we talk about accountability of public officers or anybody else in terms of what is required by Article 232 as state officers or anybody else, it must be understood that the independence of the judiciary is not negotiable in terms of how they render judicial decisions. And it doesn't matter who goes before the judiciary, whether it's an NGO, whether perceived to be supporting government or whoever it is, whether it's a citizen from anywhere, each one of us has a duty to go to court to ask for court protection where you feel your rights are threatened or where you feel you require the support of the court on any particular matter. So we cannot take put the court into a situation where we will permanently make them feel uncomfortable because politicians want to get into the judiciary and try to intimidate judges. I will not support this kind of a position, whatever it is,
so
because if we do not leave the business of interpretation of the law and the constitution to the judges, and because that is where we can seek protection, then we'll be sliding the country in the wrong direction. And it must be understood. You know, some people get some bit of power here and there because you're a senator or you're an MC or you're an MP, and forget, the moment you lose that position, you should ask yourself where you'd been getting to when you lose that influence that you think you have so much, to the extent of trying to intimidate and steal with anyone else without really caring whether there is law or not. Let us respect the rule of law. Let us respect the functions and the mandate of any institution created or given by the Constitution to any other body, and really make sure that whatever we do as politicians, we do it to put the country together. I think that this is wrong at the time. Whatever
change your tune.
I will not
later.
Let me tell you, not on this matter.
Not on this matter.
Yes, I can't be a one sitting down to see the country go back down to the stream because of careless utterances of an immature politician.
Honorable Kaluma, I've scrolled down this petition just a bit. Those are very strong words, I must say. You've surprised the other panelists here, Senator. A bit further down, the petition reads, the Chief Justice action was motivated by, he uses words like malice, sabotage, intention. He actually pushes this petition further, you know, as you scroll down just a bit. I also want to ask the same question to you, even as you look at this. Just your take on how you expect the JSC to look at this matter, and of course, you know, the fact that you had heard about it earlier. Maybe you can tell us how you came about, you know, with that information.
Yes, by yesterday when we finished our parliamentary group meeting at what is popularly known as the Okoa Secretariat.
Okoa Kenya Secretariat.
We had this information already, and it was to be this and a court action challenging the decision the Supreme Court made. Okay. So we are waiting for two things, and that is why I told you, you know.
So we can expect another court action?
Yeah, there is going to be a court action.
Soon.
I'm a state officer, I'm bound to secrecy. Maura, you'd also remember I was in the team of lawyers on the petitioner side in the Supreme Court decision.
That's correct.
So I would not say much. And I want to tell the nation that they should thank the law from restricting some of us in such privileged positions from speaking. If we spoke, there would be no nation called Kenya now. Through the shenanigans to what we are seeing through. Let me go to the first ground in the petition. You know, this gentleman is saying there are some NGOs who have taken over, you know, the judiciary. Year by year, throughout the 11th term of Parliament, I sat in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. And I can tell you, a substantial part of the budget of the judiciary is supported by bodies like United Nations Development Programs and others. And in fact, they contribute it. And it's not just to the judiciary, but to other sectors of government also. And you see, you know, the portion of grants, donations and others in terms of how we factor them in the budget. So this is not an unusual thing. If you remember, Chief Justice Mutunga, before he was appointed, was heading an organization. So this is not something you want to look at in an isolated way. Yes. I want to ask you and the people of Kenya today, and Mithika, you know, when we have this opportunity as privileged, you know, Kenyans to be leaders, we should help this country. Tell me which independent commissions, tell me which independent office is enjoying their independence under the Jubilee administration. I mean, just tell me a single one of them. I want to tell the people of Kenya that if the Jubilee administration has been successful, it has been eroding the independence of all institutions we established to undergird good governance. And I want to remind the people of Kenya that the only institution...
Do you feel that the NASA coalition has respected all institutions?
We do. We do.
Including the Supreme Court before the judgment was made.
We do.
The statements that were made by your party leader.
We do. And you can ask specific questions.
Yes.
I'll tell you our positions. Because you remember, even when we disagreed with the judgment of the Supreme Court last time, I don't know whether you've read to the nation that statement recently. We never went to the level of saying, you know, the members of the bench, they were Quora. If you remember, you know, Raila Odinga said, I disagree with the decision, but for the sake of our democracy and the stability of our economy, I will accept. And he accepted.
Allow me to pause you there. You know why? We need to get another update from Sam Gituku, who is on ground. I'll come back to you. Hold your thoughts. Sam Gituku, I believe you're still outside the Supreme Court. What else have you found out? We are still here in studio trying to scrutinize the petition, but what more details can you give us? And also, can you tell us who is Honorable Ngunjiri Wambugu's legal team? We're also curious to know who is representing him in this particular matter.
Well, we do not have the names of the persons representing Ngunjiri Wambugu in the case, but in as far as the petition is concerned, we're still trying to look at it and see the prayers that Ngunjiri Wambugu is seeking before the Judicial Service Commission. And just to make it clear that when he was live, we asked him about what he wants the Judicial Service Commission. He says that he wants the removal of the Chief Justice, but when we look at the document, it doesn't clearly talk about removal, because if I may just read the last page of that document, it talks of arising from the foregoing, the Chief Justice has violated the Constitution and the Judicial Service Code of Conduct and Ethics, and probably committed or aided in the commission of penal offences which may include harboring the intention of causing a change in the lawful government of Kenya. And then he wants that in view of the foregoing, I request an opportunity to present my evidence before the Judicial Service Commission at the earliest opportunity. The evidence will comprise both oral as well as documentary evidence in support of each and every contention herein. So clearly he's looking for an opportunity to have a sitting with the Judicial Service Commission to be in a position to verify, or rather give details of what his allegations. And basically, as you were going ahead touching on some of the issues that he has raised in the petition, for instance, alleging that the Chief Justice has allowed some non-government organizations to come into the affairs of the judiciary. For instance, an institution called the International Development Law Organization, he says, that has been used to finance some of the operations of the court, or rather of the judiciary. And he says that there's a gentleman by the name Makau Mutua who sits as a member of the advisory board of IDLO. He says also that he's the chairperson of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and he says that these are the people who are at the forefront of facilitating the case against President Uhuru Kenyatta at the ICC back in 2013. So he says that the Chief Justice has been working with some of these people, or rather has allowed some of these people to work with the institutions within the judiciary, which he thinks that is against the law, or rather it allows some undue influence in terms of how the Judicial Service Commission and the judiciary itself handles the matters before them. And then also he makes an allegation that, as you said, that talking about the 6-judge bench that made the decision to nullify the presidential election a few weeks ago. He says that at that time Justice Mohammed Ibrahim wanted to be in a position to contribute to the judgment that was made, but he says that the Chief Justice disallowed the judge to make his contribution, saying that in as much as he had been indisposed, it was just for one day. So he does not indicate the evidence where to indicate that really Justice Ibrahim had sought an opportunity to make known his opinion, but he makes that allegation. And also he says that just before the judgment was made by the 6 judges, that the Chief Justice went and told his colleagues that he is for invalidating the election. He puts that in quotation marks, indicating that it's something that might have been said by the Chief Justice, and he says that that was notwithstanding that no appraisal of evidence or law had been made, and persisted in that predetermined and illegal scheme. So he's accusing the Chief Justice that he reached a decision before even going through the entire the entire evidence that had been tabled before before the Supreme Court, and he makes a quotation which I think the Chief Justice indicated when he was making the judgment on a few days ago, when that judgment was made on the 1st of September. He says that given the tons of materials placed before us, it was not humanly possible to go through and prepare a reasoned and well-considered judgment. So he is taking that quotation from the Chief Justice to indicate that really the judges made a decision without having to peruse the entire documentation that had been tabled in terms of the evidence. And then there is another claim that you realize that there's been an allegation that Chief Justice David Maraga flew out of the country after making the judgment to a country by the name Lithuania. The petitioner, Ngunjiri Wambugu, the MP for Nyeri Town, is saying that in as much as the Chief Justice is free to travel, he traveled in exclusion of his colleagues who might have been necessary in terms of considering the judgment that was being written. So he says that when he traveled to Lithuania, he did not have the opportunity to participate in a conference meeting with the other judges in as far as reaching a decision is concerned. So he says that this might have been done in a sense that excludes the other judges. So how possible is that? It's a matter that Wambugu will have to prove, but he says he is seeking for an opportunity to do that with both oral presentations and also documentary evidence that can be tabled. So he's also talking about the aspect of in his conclusion, he's talking about the scenario witnessed in Kenya when the presidential election was nullified. It mirrors what happened in Ukraine. He says that there's a time that in Ukraine the presidential election was nullified by the court there, and what followed there was some scenes of chaos and violence. And he says that this might be precipitated. So in as much as he's raising that allegation, trying to draw parallels, I would imagine that he'll be required to present his evidence that it really shows that there are parallels that can be drawn, and really whether this really can stand the concerns of the Judicial Service Commission. So it's a long document, yes, but the long and short of it is that he's raising allegations based on what he has seen, what he has witnessed when the presidential election petition was being heard, and also when it was being determined and the judgment rendered, even as we continue to await the full judgment of the Supreme Court to see really the reasoning behind the decision by majority 4 against 2 as was made. So we're still expecting that judgment should be presented, because the 21 days that the judges indicated will be lapsing at around the 22nd of September. So we still have some 4 days, some few days, talking about maybe 1 week or so to wait, and then see the reasons that will have been given and whether that really matches what has been tabled by the petitioner Ngunjiri Wambugu. Wahiga?
Sam Gituku, just 2 quick questions for you. First of all, I know it's been a very limited time between when Honorable Wambugu moved to the Judicial Service Commission and the time we are talking. Have you managed to talk to anyone from the Judicial Service Commission to confirm, of course, that they've received it? I know he stated that it's been stamped, showing that it has been received. Has the Judicial Service Commission or any representative spoken to the members of the press that are outside there?
Well, not yet, Wahiga.
Okay.
We are not yet able to do that, but it's something that we'll be definitely pursuing to see what the procedure should be, in a sense, because there are the provisions in law and also the procedures managing matters for the Judicial Service Commission when you really want to petition against a judge. In this case, you're petitioning against the Chief Justice. So the process that should be followed, basically the Judicial Service Commission should have to consider the application as has been received by the Chief Registrar, who is also the Secretary to the Judicial Service Commission. So the question is the procedures that should be following, and that is what we'll be trying to establish to see what should follow, because essentially what you understand is that the Chief Justice is also the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission, but this is a matter that is touching directly on his person, on him as the President of the Supreme Court, as the Chief Justice, as the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission. So in a sense that would require that he also excuses himself from such a determination, but that can only be known as soon as the Judicial Service Commission gets to hear of this matter, and they have to be called to a session because they do not sit continuously, so they have to be alerted that there is something that needs their attention. So that is something that will have to happen in the next few hours, maybe, or maybe the next few days. Wahiga?
Yeah, waiting game, I can imagine. final question to you. Honorable Kaluma is here with us in studio. He has hinted, according to his sources, that another petitioner could be moving to court to challenge the judgment by the Supreme Court judges. In fact, as we are talking, he's nodding his head in agreement, meaning I've not misquoted him. Have you heard anything about another court order, another petitioner moving to court to challenge the judgment by the Supreme Court on the 11th of August? Anything that you may have heard?
Well, what we have is, can I call it a rumor, but Kaluma seems to have some more details. We still hear of someone who wants to go to court and and challenge that, but we will have to wait until it happens so that really we can get the details of what the content of that petition and if it has any far-reaching consequences. But maybe Kaluma can give us some more details on what that petitioner wants and the content.
Sam, you seem to want to take over my panel in studio. Thank you so much for that update. We'll allow you now to go and seek for more information and we'll come back to you as soon as you have anything for us. Sam Gituko reporting live just outside the Supreme Court, trying to shed light on a petition that has many baffled, brought to the Judicial Service Commission by Honorable Ngunjiri Wambugu, Member of Parliament, Nyeri Town. We now cross over to Uasin Gishu, where residents are already coming to terms with that petition by Honorable Wambugu. I'm sure they have comments there. Let's get John Wanyama now to get us an update. I'm sure the residents were listening in on Citizen as Honorable Wambugu was sharing what were the contents of that document. What is their reaction, Wanyama?
Thank you very much, Maura. And as you have said, residents here in Eldoret town, they have been really following up this issue on Citizen TV, and they have sharp and different mixed reactions that they have towards this petition. Most of them feel like it's okay for the Member of Parliament to go to the court and ensure that they remove the CJ. But others are saying that it's not proper because the ruling also was done properly. And maybe, Maura, without wasting time, we can hear from them what they have to tell us so that we can get from the horseman.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the first place. We apologize for that technical challenge. We'll go back to John Wanyama shortly. We're also live from different locations. We will be crossing over, giving you updates of what's happening around the country. We know that a Requiem Mass at Moi Girls was also supposed to be taking place. We'll be giving you updates on that, as well as also monitoring President Uhuru Kenyatta expected in Nyeri anytime now. We'll also be giving you an update on that as well. But for now, time for a quick commercial break. We'll be discussing so much more around what's happening in the nation on the other side of this break. You're watching Citizen Extra live on Citizen TV.